This is where now their double, triple standard on Israel is really showing, in my opinion. It totally takes any argument that they had that they're not anti-Israel and they're for protecting civilians if they're going to come for Iron Dome funding.
Okay. Jared Moskowitz is a Democrat from Florida. I know you're going to be shocked to find out he's taking a tremendous amount of money from AIPAC. We're going to show that to you a little bit later. And he's making a case in CNN that we have to kiss Israel's ass. Everything he says is a lie. So we're going to show you parts of it, and then we're going to debunk every single thing he says. So Yaz, take it away.
Yeah, and there is a lot to debunk in this one section that we're starting the second hour with. So yesterday, Representative Jared Moskowitz, he appeared on CNN to one, push for more aid to Israel, not less, more, and two, to chide Democratic voters who no longer want to support Israel. That's what we love to be lectured by these people. So you've already heard him claim that opposing additional aid for the Iron Dome is anti-Israel, but there's more. Let's watch.
Well, not only do I oppose it, I think it's the most hypocritical position they possibly could have. Well, because for the longest time, they've been talking about protecting civilians, right? And the reason they're upset is the civilian death in Gaza. They have every reason to be upset about that. I think that's a legitimate concern about how many civilians were killed in a war. But now they're going to say, well, we want more civilian death, because if you remove Iron Dome funding, it will lead to civilian death. And they're saying, well, it's an unfair advantage. Well, countries have unfair advantages. We have an unfair advantage, right? Our military is an unfair advantage with the Iranians. That's how this stuff works. Israel developed technology. Well, we shouldn't pay for it. Okay, well, we have THAAD missile systems in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Bahrain. We paid for that. They didn't pay for that. We gave them defensive THAAD missile systems. How come no one's saying remove those defensive missile systems?
All right, so in an earlier interview, or earlier in that same interview, Moskowitz portrayed Democratic voters as fervently and irrationally anti-Israel. Let's listen to that.
This idea that they can blame it on Netanyahu. Well, when Netanyahu goes, right, and you're now on record with this, what, you're going to revert back and say, okay, now that he's gone, I can start sending offensive weapons? Because the base is never going to let them do that. Now they're locked in, right? And so now they've boxed themselves into that. They're not going to be able to revert on this. And this movement's just going to keep going. Now it's going on to Iron Dome. For the longest time, we heard it was just about offensive weapons. We want to protect civilians, Iron Dome. It's all about civilians. In fact, the reason they're up in arms is because of the death of civilians in Gaza. Yeah. But now they want more civilian death.
That's what we want. We want more civilian deaths. That is the argument that he's actually trying to make right there in that interview. So if you're wondering where Moskowitz would draw the line, he explained that he would probably vote to block bulldozers that are being used for settling in the West Bank, probably.
What about the US funding bulldozers, military bulldozers?
Look, I think, the bulldozer thing, I don't care about the bulldozers. I care more about the weaponry. So if they don't want to send bulldozers to the West Bank, that's fine. I probably could have supported something like that, because I'm not for the expansion of settlements in the West Bank.
Good, okay. I know Cenk has a ton of thoughts on all of this, but real quick, I just want to show you the AIPAC tracker. Let's look and see Jared Moskowitz and where he sits there. So as of February of this year, Moskowitz has taken over $1.5 million from pro-Israel lobby groups and their donors. So, something you notice whenever you see or anybody who's very, very pro-Israel making the rounds in the media circuit, a lot of their talking points make no sense, and they really have to go out of their way to make them sound sensible, but they never are actually able to do that. And what we have here is a congressman who is telling the American people that, we don't know what we're talking about. We are advocating for more civilian deaths when everyone knows that that's a ridiculous thing. Cenk, you got a lot of thoughts on this. Let's hear him.
So he says that we have a double standard, the people that are in favor of peace. Okay, let's see who has a double standard, because my guess is that it's him. So once you hear the facts, so let's start with the facts. No, first of all, I was in favor of Iron Dome. I no longer am in favor of funding Iron Dome. So why is that? Because in the beginning I thought, well, I'm for protecting civilians, just like he's saying. So that makes sense. Let's protect Israeli civilians. Now, I don't want Israel occupying the Palestinians. I want them to end that oppression, etc. But those two things seem disconnected. But now that Israel has Iron Dome, what they have done is they have gotten emboldened to attack all of their neighbors. And they've attacked 7 different countries. And they keep bragging about, oh, so we got Iron Dome. So they feel invincible. So what it has done, ironically, counterintuitively, it has led to more civilian deaths, not less, because the monsters that are in charge of the Israeli government today, first of all, a lot of them are religious fanatics, and they don't think that Muslim lives are worth anything at all. And they're trying to set up Greater Israel, and they've taken southern Lebanon, they've taken 53% of Gaza. And so they're the ones that now feel like, oh, okay, we got Iron Dome, so we can kill anyone we like. And they have, and it's led to massive number of lives lost that are civilians. Now, Israel, do they kill civilians? Like literally more than any terrorist group in the world, as you've heard me say many times, this comes from the Israeli press, 972 magazine. They got insider information about IDF files themselves, where the IDF says, Hamas's civilian kill ratio, for example, is 67%, and the IDF in their own internal papers admits their civilian kill ratio is 83%, monstrous. They target civilians and they kill them at mass scale, about 100 times more people killed by the IDF than Hamas, 100 times the civilian deaths. But do you notice what Moskowitz did there? Oh, I mean, there were some civilian lives lost in Gaza, and there could be some civilian lives lost in Israel if the Iron Dome is not fully funded. Wait. That's apples and oranges, right? Not because their lives are worth any different. I mean, I think that each life, whether Israeli or Palestinian, is worth exactly the same. The Israelis obviously don't believe that because they slaughter the Palestinians in massive, massive numbers. They've destroyed all of Gaza. If you didn't know that and you just listen to Moskowitz, you'd think, oh, I guess they lost 20 people and the other guys lost 20 people. No. So on October 7th, they lost nearly 1,200 people in Israel. The other side's lost at a bare minimum 72,000 people, but it looks like it's well over 100,000. And then now in Iran, we've got over 3,000 dead. And how many dead in Israel? Well, 23. Well, the 23 are also tragic, but again, it's well over 100 times more Iranians killed. Since they have Iron Dome, Israel thinks, let's go hit Lebanon, let's go hit Iran, let's go slaughter all the Palestinians in Gaza. And then they brag, well, we didn't kill them all. It's not a Holocaust, it's just a genocide. And did you notice he didn't say genocide? He said, oh, there's a war and civilian deaths happen. No, it's not equal, Jared. It's not even close to equal. And you know that, but you kind of like it. So that's why you think like, yes, Israel should be allowed to destroy them, but not a single super precious Israeli life. The Israeli lives are perfectly precious, but so are the Palestinian lives. And Moskowitz doesn't seem to give a damn about that. He's like, no, we want, and we demand that America fund it. Why does America have to fund it? Why don't you fund your own defense? No, you owe us. Wait, who's us? Who's us? What do you mean we owe? We don't owe Israel anything at all. No, you have to pay for their defenses so they can go on the offense and kill more people and attack more countries and take more land. No, we don't have to do that, Jared. We don't have to do that at all. And you should care about America and not a different country. I know they bribed you $1.5 million. And I know that you love Israel anyway, and you couldn't care less about Muslim lives because you're deeply bigoted. But stop lying. So now, is it true that, oh, Israel, Saudi Arabia, other countries, oh, they're all the same? No, the THAAD missiles in Saudi Arabia and the other countries are to protect our bases there, our troops. Did you mention that, Jared? No, you conveniently left that out, pretending as if we're giving the Saudis free money. But did we give Israel free money? Well, let's find out who's got the double standard. AIPAC's PAC and AIPAC super PAC UDP spent nearly $126.9 million combined during the 23-24 election cycle, according to the FEC. I'm sure the Israeli lobby gave $127 million to the politicians and said, gratis, just for your own benefit and charity and general well-being. No, they bought them like they bought you. So that they give 126 and then you're gonna see what they got in return, which is a monster number. This includes more than $55.2 million in donations given to federal candidates, at least $45.2 million of which went to campaigns of members of the new 119th US Congress. 349 representatives and senators, or 65% of the 535 total members, received campaign funding from AIPAC during the 23-24 election cycle. Now, The Guardian has all of the Israeli lobby and what they've given throughout the years, and they have the number at 94%. The Israeli lobby is given to 94% of Congress. Well, what did they get anything back? Let's find out. Israel has been the largest cumulative recipient of US foreign aid since its founding, receiving over $300 billion adjusted for inflation in total economic and military assistance. Now, that's just before the genocide, but Biden sent them $21 billion during the genocide. Murder more Palestinians. Why? Because Biden's #1 lifetime donor is AIPAC. Oh, you can't say that. That's anti-Semitic to say facts. No, it's just facts. Bernie Sanders is the one saying, don't send the bulldozers and the bombs. And did you see Moskowitz say, I don't care much about the bulldozers, but you have to send the bombs. We haven't murdered enough Palestinians. Send the bombs. Send the bombs. No, we don't have to send the bombs, Jared. Okay, we don't owe Israel anything. It's a foreign country. It's a foreign country that's done a genocide and that's put a moral stain on us. So stop lying. So Moskowitz is a giant liar who goes out like, oh, poor little Israel, we didn't do anything. Oh, you guys have a double standard. I bet you're anti-Semitic, okay? Israel gets to do genocides, and if you complain about genocides, and you complain about the 7 neighbors that they attacked, and you complain that they dragged us into a war, that makes no sense. You're anti-Israel, you hate civilian lives. No, you hate the idea of protecting civilian lives if they're Muslims or Arabs or Persians, because your beloved Israel needs more land. So every part of that segment was a lie by Moskowitz, not to protect Florida, where he's from, or America, but protect his beloved homeland of Israel. Be honest, Jared. Be honest. No, of course, there's no chance Jared Moskowitz is gonna be honest. He's deeply duplicitous. And no, Jared, stop smearing all Jewish people. It's not about Jewish people. Bernie Sanders, Raskin, so many others have done great work on behalf of America and peace. It's scum like you who take bribes, having nothing to do with your religion. So does Lindsey Graham, so does Cory Booker, so does Ted Cruz. And you all grovel for that money and you all serve your donors, including Israel. Okay, that's my thoughts.
That's a lot of thoughts, yeah. I think at this point it's embarrassing for these Congress people to be out there publicly defending Israel, because they can never seem to come up with a good defense of American involvement and funding in Israel, because there really isn't one. They have to know also that one of the big distinctions between midterm candidates this year is and will be, as we get closer to November, whether or not these candidates support American money and taxpayer dollars going over to Israel for aid, whether that's defensive or offensive, and whether or not the candidates are taking money from AIPAC. It is already popping up all over the place in town halls. People are asking them on social media. Every time these candidates are doing interviews, a lot of times they get asked, do you take money from AIPAC? Some of them understand that it is a bad thing because they're kind of lying about it. They're saying, no, I don't take AIPAC money, but they're still getting money from AIPAC and from similar PACs by going in a roundabout way. So they do understand that it's a bad look. They can pretend not to be aware of the fact that people are not gonna vote for them because of this, but they have to actually know. The DNC doesn't want to acknowledge that Kamala Harris lost a lot of her would-be voters because of this one particular issue. They can pretend, like let's not document any of that, so there's no record of any of this taking place, and that's not the reason why the Democrats lost in 2024, but they know what the real reason is. And their arguments fall apart before they even get started whenever they go on these media tours, because the real reason they're doing any of this stuff, the real reason why they're so supportive of Israel is heinous, right? They know that a lot of this is indefensible. They know that for the first time in this country's history, really, or in Israel's history, I should say, this is the first time that the American people are actually seeing Israel for what it is. They're seeing what it is doing to the Palestinian people. And for the first time, the American people are on the side of the Palestinians, not the Israelis. And it's really just by virtue of we have more information now than we did before. Before, we really had no idea what was going on over there. We only knew what was being told to us by our government. And social media, for better or for worse, has given us a much different perspective on the entire situation. We are seeing for ourselves what is happening, and all the propaganda tactics that they're used to using against us, they're simply not working anymore, or at least not as effective as they used to be.
Yes. In fact, I want to give a couple more numbers here to prove our point.
Yeah.
So first of all, 80% of Democratic voters are against this war, but Moskowitz is like, my voters, who cares? I serve Israel, right? Did you know, and this is really important, 63% of Jewish Americans say that they support Israel but are against the current Israeli government. Did you hear Moskowitz? He was like, they say that this is against Netanyahu, but then they're not gonna give Israel any more money after Netanyahu, so it's okay, give it to Netanyahu. Wait, now you're against 63% of Jewish Americans. So what explains this? What explains this is obvious, the money. So as we just told you, AIPAC given $127 million, but that's just in this last election cycle. I've seen reports that over the course of their history that AIPAC and the Israeli lobby have given over $1 billion. That's a lot of money to the politicians, but what did they get back? I didn't get to finish. Biden gave 21 billion, and I forgot to come back to Trump gave them about 13 billion. So we're now at over $330 billion we've given to Israel. So they spend $1 billion lobbying, and in return they get $330 billion. Well, that's an amazing deal. So, and I don't blame Israel for doing it. If you're a foreign government, you'd be nuts not to do that. We basically legalized bribery in this country. So if I was gonna give somebody $1 and I was gonna get $330 back, I'd keep giving them $1. That's logic. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with math and corruption, right? But they want to try to use Jewish Americans as human shields and hide behind them to protect Israel. Why? Because they're getting bribed by the Israeli lobby. And I don't know Moskowitz's personal inclinations towards Israel, but it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that matters is brother gets a $1.5 million personally, and then he turns around and goes, no, John and Sally in Kansas and in Florida and Rhode Island and Hawaii, shut up, go back to work. I'm gonna take money from you and I'm gonna send it over to Israel, who coincidentally gave me $1.5 million. That's why I'm against Jewish Americans, 63% of them. I'm against 80% of my own voters. So Jared, we see you. You can go on CNN and have Dana Bash cover your ass and not tell anyone in her audience. She's lying, by the way, implicitly, by not telling them, by the way, this guy I'm talking to has been bribed by Israel to the tune of at least $1.5 million. That might be relevant when you're hearing him talk, but no one in mainstream media would ever do that, because they don't cover the news, they cover up the news. So that's why you see the lies in front of you. And again, I'm not mad at Israel for doing something rational. I don't like it, I don't want it, I don't want to send the money. It's rational for us to say no more. I'm mad at people like Jared Moskowitz, who are pretending to be Americans, but meanwhile taking money from a foreign government's lobby and serving that foreign government. And I'm also mad at the Dana Bashes of the world, who lie to you and pretend that those people are honest and honorable and decent and moral people representing you, when she knows how much money he's taken, and she knows that he's against 80% of his own voters. But shh, let's do a nice little fluff propaganda piece for Israel. It'll only be the millionth in a row on CNN and mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, if we're at the point where their best explanation as to why the American people don't support any of this is that we just love seeing more civilian deaths, they are so far gone that they really should just be embarrassed at this point. And I hope it pays well. Like, I hope it was all worth it, because otherwise this really just reads like a humiliation ritual of some sort. Like, he sounds so stupid, and this is what they're feeding the American people. They're treating us like we're stupid. They're trying to gaslight us into this line of thinking, and maybe people buy it. I would hope that CNN viewers don't. I would hope that they don't think that we're over here advocating for more civilian deaths, but you never know anymore.
Yeah, notanother.com, that's a pledge to never vote for any politician that gives more money to Israel. I mean, my God, imagine a bunch of politicians in America taking money from the Serb government in the middle of them genociding Kosovo and Bosnia and Srebrenica. They come and they go, no, the real victims are the Serbs. We have to send them more money. I mean, there's civilian deaths on the Serb side too. They're all equal. we all have to send them more money to kill more innocent human beings. No, that would be a monstrous thing to do. This is the same thing, actually much worse. Israel has killed far more than the Serbs have in their genocide.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.